So today the president said that a majority of Republicans have signed on to Senator Scott's tax plan. That does not seem to be the case. Senator Scott said that today. Mitch McConnell had said that the party is not behind this. Are there any Republicans that you can think of or the president might be referencing that is currently behind this?
Do you count the chairman of the Republican committee as an important Republican?
He is the chairman of a committee, but if no other
It's actually a she, the chairman of the Republican Party.
There.
So Chairman Ronna McDaniel praised Senator Scott's proposal as a, quote, clear plan for Republicans that offers, quote, real solutions. She's the chairwoman of the party. Rick Scott is not a random senator. He is literally in charge of winning back the Senate for Republicans and what the plan is. So he is the person who's put forward this plan. Senator Ron Johnson has called the congressional GOP plan a, quote, positive thing. Senator Mike Braun has said he was, quote, glad Rick did it. Senator Tommy Tuberville said he was, quote, on board with the congressional GOP plan. Congressman Matt Gaetz said he was, quote, proud of Senator Rick Scott for providing this bold agenda. So not only that, which seems to be quite a range of Republicans, but there isn't an alternative plan they've put forward. So it's either this put together by the person who is leading the effort to win back the Senate or nothing. And the president this morning talked about what his plan is. If they have an alternative plan, we would welcome them putting it forward.
Yeah, I'd probably venture to guess that Jen Psaki was prepared for that question. And she absolutely should be, because Republicans are desperately running away from this plan put forward by Rick Scott now that we actually know what's in it. And so given how clearly and obviously scared Republicans are of this issue, it would be absolutely insane not to make sure that it stays top of mind. And the most important reason, first and foremost, is because this is all we have from Republicans thus far that offers even a modicum of evidence as to what their platform is. A few Republicans love to pretend that it's only Rick Scott who supports this plan, which is a point that Jen Psaki duly debunked. But if it's that antithetical to what Republicans stand for, then you might want to ask yourself why they haven't bothered introducing anything else. Might it be because, and I hope you're sitting down for this, the Rick Scott plan is what they support, but given the public backlash, they realize now that they just can't admit it? Does that make more sense? And by the way, that's not just me claiming that Republicans are trying to keep it a secret. When Mitch McConnell himself was asked point blank what the Republican agenda would be if the GOP took control of Congress, he said, quote, "That is a very good question, and I'll let you know when we take it back." Let me just ask you, if a car salesman told you that he wouldn't tell you the price of that car, but he'll let you know once you've signed the contract, would that be okay? Would you be cool with that? Would you think to yourself, yeah, no, I feel pretty comfortable with the way this transaction's going, and I'm pretty positive that my best interest will be taken into account? Yeah, I didn't think so. So why would that be any different if a politician said it? And you want another example as to how I'm sure that this is the Republican agenda, no matter how much the GOP tries to distance itself? It's because creating a tax code that only works for the ultra-wealthy and trying to eliminate Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, like the Rick Scott plan pushes for, has quite literally been the Republican agenda for decades. Are we really sitting here pretending that because Mitch McConnell condemned the plan from a press conference one time, that he actually isn't for it? Remember, just a few short years ago, when Trump was in office and the Republicans had the majority, what was their only legislative achievement? A $1.9 trillion tax cut that overwhelmingly favored the ultra-rich. A tax cut that immediately saw 66% of the benefit go to the top 20% of Americans, with only 1% going to the poorest 20% of Americans. And by 2027, that'll see 83% of the benefit go to the top 1% of Americans, while actually raising taxes on the poorest 20% of us. And for what? Well, we all know what happened with that bill. Millionaires and billionaires got a tax holiday, and corporations bought back $1 trillion in stocks. So now that the Rick Scott plan says that the bottom 50% of Americans should pay more in taxes, do we have any reason not to believe that? Have Republicans ever passed a law targeted toward helping the bottom 50% of Americans that wasn't just, here, enjoy 1% of the tax cut that's aimed squarely at helping millionaires? Yeah, I didn't think so. And as for losing Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, which would be the effective result of sunsetting all legislation after 5 years, if you think that Republicans would actually let those things survive, I've got a bridge to sell you. Take a look at what Mitch McConnell, who really hates the Rick Scott plan, had to say about the very legislation that would be on the chopping block with that plan.
What's going on with the debt?
It's very disturbing, and it's driven by the three big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. That's 70% of what we spend every year. the subject we were just discussing, the funding of the government, is about 30% of what we spent. There's been a bipartisan reluctance to tackle entitlement changes because of the popularity of those programs. Hopefully, at some point here, we'll get serious about this. We haven't been yet. We all know the real driver of the debt is entitlements. They're extraordinarily popular, but in the solution, we all know is the demographics of our country are changing dramatically. Social Security was set at 65 back in the 30s, when the average American lived to be 61. That was the age set for Medicare. So that's the real drivers of the debt. So I make no apologies. These very, very popular entitlement programs at some point are going to have to be adjusted to meet the demographics of America tomorrow, rather than the demographics of America in the 30s and the 60s.
But sure, the Republicans definitely aren't on board with Rick Scott's plan. Got it. Here's the thing. Republicans are pushing back here not because it's false, it's very clearly perfectly in line with decades of precedent in the GOP, but precisely the opposite, because they know it's true, and they've recognized that there is a lot of danger in allowing the public to know that they stand for the things that they stand for. This isn't righteous indignation over an unfair assertion by the left. This is outright fear over the fact that the left is exposing the GOP's platform for exactly what it is. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.